And indeed, yeah, we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to one more Tuesday, if I may say like that. Such a funny Tuesday because now here, I think everywhere, this was the time changing in Europe, especially. So the dark it's earlier everywhere. Indeed, indeed. And basically, tonight we have a very special guest, if I may say like that. Very passionate Azure person, very passionate developer also, which I really appreciate him. And he have a lot of experience with Azure and all the cloud services, if I may say like that. He is also MVP, but he is also a Microsoft trainer. And basically, tonight we have Gregor with us. Welcome, Gregor.
Hi, thank you for having me, Martin. Yeah, I've spoken to you for ages, and it's good to finally get on a chat session with you and kind of talk to you about stuff. Thanks
Indeed,
for having me.
indeed. I think from last year, I
Yep,
remember on the message when I pinged you, we were discussing to join a newer show,
yeah.
but somehow we didn't align. I think you pro work, me work, and all that stuff that happened.
Yeah.
But happy that we connect now, and I
Likewise.
promise that very soon I will join on your show. Can we agree on that?
Sounds good to me. Perfect.
Perfect, perfect. Where your current position, or we are saying, where are you on Google currently on your map?
So I am in Scotland, which is obviously in the United Kingdom. I am about 10, 15 miles east of Glasgow. So in Scotland,
Oof.
most people live in what's called the Central Belt. So it's between Glasgow and Edinburgh, and I'm just east of
Edinburgh.
Glasgow. Yeah.
Oh, I think he was from Edinburgh. I have a colleague of mine.
All
I
right.
really like. Yeah, I like the accent. By the way, I know maybe somebody's complaining. I like the accent. I must be honest. Maybe it's not so much, but maybe because I'm a James Bond fan a little
Ah,
bit. So he have this accent, if I remember good,
yeah.
and I really like it. By the way,
Cool.
nice, nice. Finish with work. Lazy Tuesday or busy Tuesday?
Oh, busy Tuesday. I am swamped at the minute. Yeah, I am. Long story short, I'm doing a TFS migration from TFS 2017 to Azure DevOps 2020. So, yeah, I've been installing Java and SQL Server 2016 and all the old tools to try and get it up and running. So, I'm been busy every night at the moment. How about you? Are you busy at night?
Well, quite busy. Last week we finished with basically it was I'm working in the CISO department. Long story short, now I switched a little bit, couple of 2 3 years ago. So we were it was a cybersecurity month, October, and basically we were organizing the closing summit. Was in the auditorium in the company, and it was a lot of invites. And basically, yeah, maybe that initiates one more thing. I don't know, maybe you have seen, but I put it here because I'm really we created this. I don't
Oh,
know if
DevOps security trainers.
indeed.
Very
So we
cool.
have DevOps teams, but we have also security in our company. And basically, it was a big kudos to Sebastian. It's a person from here, and basically, it was a really nice design. And he aligned the colors and all the stuff. So long story short, we aligned the program, discussed with speakers. Internally, it was organized, if I may be honest, for the developers. We started with the how it's called from the developers, then AI, machine learning, API security, and all the stuff. So we covered, let's say, one journey. And we have also Azure Copilot, to be honest, so which is quite experienced to see in the big organization how they evaluate, how the people from that department thinks, what is this, what is that. But long story short, I was really curious because I'm working also, and I think you have access to Azure Copilot. I didn't
Yeah.
see a lot of improvement in the last couple of months,
Yeah.
or it's
No, I
just
think
me.
yeah, just a couple of small tweaks here and there. Yeah. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. We will come to that topic before, basically that's why that's how I was busy and with organizing everything finished successful. Long story short, and basically, yeah, now focus on the November and waiting for the new year, if I may say like that.
Me too.
That's how usually it works. But so far, quite busy with finishing the year and all that goals that we have. And basically, now to switch a little bit and put the question to you. Now, to put you instead of 2016 TFS Azure DevOps, because DevOps was not here long time ago. I want to ask when Gregor started to be interested in the computers, or what was your first experience with computer? Which computer was it, Gregor?
Oh, that's a good question. I think when I was at primary school, it would be the ZX.
Okay.
Yeah, ZX Spectrum 48K.
Okay.
Remember that? I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
that, but we
No.
used to get that at school in primary school.
Okay.
So we learned basic, like I'm talking like maybe just under 40 years ago. So
40 years ago.
a long time ago. I don't look that old.
Nine. No. It's not about that. I'm just putting in my mind, because I catch Sam and Marta. Do you remember those keyboards and all the stuff? So I'm just thinking about, is it before them or after them? I'm just thinking about in my mind. That's why I look confused.
Before. Yeah, probably before. The keyboard was like a wee rubber keyboard with it was just brilliant. So that was the first time I ever wrote a program, and it was basically like write your name 10 times on a screen, and that was like, oh, this is awesome. So that's kind of started.
Yeah. If I may ask, in the primary school, basically where you were learning, does it have some type of a subject like in the primary school? I remember, I'm not sure if I have it. I think not. Informatics, because they usually put these computers or something like that. So did you have that type of subject? If I may ask?
Yeah, we got it like 1 hour a week. Where we would learn, where they would bring out the computer and you would get a wee shot and you would basically try and write a program. Yeah, it was brilliant. Wow. Absolutely. They actually had a printer attached to it. And it was printed out on silver paper, which was like this thick, and just to see you had read right and then come out, you were like, "Oh, this is amazing." So,
Indeed, but there was no games, no nothing. Basically, you have just black screen and keyboard where you can type. Basically, Indeed. How long it takes for that for you? That, if I may ask, for example, how long it takes, or did you buy in that period a computer? I can imagine how expensive it was.
So one of my pals at school actually had a ZX Spectrum in the house. And when my dad was working, he would ask the IT company which computer is a good one to buy. And unfortunately, back then, everybody had like Amigas or Amstrads. Sorry, not Amstrads, Commodores. And they were all playing games. But I got a green screen Amstrad 464. Because my dad thought he thought I could learn like coding and be like, I don't know, use intelligent stuff. But all I wanted to do was play games.
Wow. But but that's nice. You really started from the early ages, if I may say like that, with really starting the journey. I cannot imagine how it's now to explain to the youngest generation. It was black and white, basically. That was what we see, and we need to create something and all the stuff. Nice. What is the next one after that, if I may ask you?
So I got an Amstrad 464. It was green screen, and then I think I really had that for a while all my friends had Commodore 64s. They all had that, and then I eventually got an Amiga 500. Don't know if you remember that.
No, I don't remember.
Oh, you missed out. An Amiga 500 was the best thing since sliced bread back in the day. Like, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, just for playing games, it was fabulous. Like, absolutely brilliant. Some of the best games I've ever played still on that basically machine. Yeah.
Wow, that's really crazy. If I may say it like that, I have seen it in the past, but now you're saying and you were growing with all that stuff. I can imagine how big for you it is.
Yeah, weekends you would go in and you'd buy like 50 blank discs, and then you would download the games or you would buy the games and put them in and then load them in. And people like even my Amstrad 464, that was tape. You actually had like a tape recorder you'd put up and put it in, and then it would load and you'd hear all the funky noises as it loads. So that was all good fun. Yeah, I loved that back then. But my Amiga 500 was still the best thing I've ever had.
Wow. Well, did you catch also this the first connection to the internet and all that stuff, if I may ask like that?
I'm back in the Netscape Navigator days and AOL and all that good stuff. Yeah.
AOL, wow.
Yeah, I've still actually, believe it or not, I've still got an AOL email address that I still use.
Really? Still working?
That must be, that's over 30 years old, that email address.
Wow, and it's still working. That's really impressive. I must be honest with you. Nice. I will immediately ask you the question. How is the feeling now from what you're saying now and the transition completely till now, what you see, AI, ML, Copilot, ChatGPT?
Oh, it's a whole new world now. Like AI is just opening up all sorts of possibilities. Yeah. The only problem with AI is I'm fed up hearing it. You know what I mean? It's like it's in every conference talk, it's in every session, and it's like it's just getting a bit like I don't know. You almost get blind to the words AI. Do you know what I mean? I think
Indeed.
Yeah, with AI, you just need to try it. Do you know what I mean? Actually, it's like learning to program. Go and download the tools, start playing about with it, and just get hands on. Yeah, there's lots of cool things you can learn. The only thing about AI is I think that AI will change so much in the next few years that what you know now won't even be relevant.
Indeed, indeed. Yesterday I was sharing at home my thoughts. Yesterday in Netherlands was the Microsoft AI tour in Hilversum. I went there, and what's the plans and the new things that need to happen. And I see a lot of companies, what they do and what they implement. I think in the next 2 years it will become really crazy. Indeed.
Yeah, I went to a talk at the Scottish Summit by a girl from I can't remember her name, but she was very good. And her talks, she used Gartner references. You know, the company Gartner, who tell you all about what's happening. They were saying that 30% of all AI projects in 2025 will get binned because of poor data and basically not really understanding how and what you can do with AI. And then on the flip side of that, in 2026, something like 30% of all apps or web apps will have AI built in. So it's kind of like going up and down. Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts at the moment. It's a bit like trying to I can't really give you an example of another technology like that, but I think it's obviously in its infancy and will get massively different going forward.
Wow, it will be a huge, huge impact. Let's be honest. I mean, if the people also, what I'm saying very often, if you don't catch the train now, later, maybe it will be really later if you don't start learning or gain some new knowledge about the technologies and what is happening, because it's going so fast. Also, we are both Microsoft guys. Yeah, I think September, yesterday they shared, it was the first birthday of Microsoft Copilot. He said 1 year, just 1 year, 1 year, and so many things happened around the Copilot and what's the power of it and all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, at Scottish Summit, someone asked the question, how many Copilots do you think Microsoft have got? And I'll ask you that. How many do you think they've got, roughly? Have a guess. I bet not even close.
Microsoft Copilots, correct?
Yeah, like Microsoft Copilots. How many have they got at the moment in all the different products?
Well, I know the latest one that I heard is about SQL. That will be the new one. But so far, I think they're around, I don't know, 2, 3, 15?
168.
168.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but that was someone who knew a lot about AI said there's roughly 168 Copilots available.
160.
Yeah, so if you're not sure what Copilot's all about, you should start using it and learning it and stuff like that. Yeah.
Let me ask you directly on this 160. How many edge tabs I need to open to test all of them?
Well, that's 160. You were there a while. Yeah. Well, you think about it off the top of your head. There's like Azure AI. There's Copilot for GitHub. There's Copilot for SQL. There's Copilot for Azure. There's Copilot for Azure and
Office. And Office Copilot also.
There's Security Copilot. There's SQL Copilot. There's Copilot and just about everything. Yeah.
Who is the pilot?
That's a good question. And some of them
will be fun.
Having used quite a few of them, some of them are good and some of them aren't so good. So it's a mixed bag. But some of them are brilliant, don't get me wrong. Like I use ChatGPT every day, constantly. Yeah. And
Welcome to the club.
I think there's things in ChatGPT that not everyone's seen. So there's things like Canvas. I don't know if you've seen Canvas, where you can...
Yeah, basically they implemented 2 months ago, I think, for improvement of the pictures with the premium version and all that stuff.
And they're bringing out Copilot Search. Have you seen the videos for that? Yeah, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Indeed. But on top of this 160, we have also a lot of other Copilots, if I may call it like that, and basically AI tools either that we discussed even before this, before we joined, about video summary, text summary, blog post, this, that. This is only Microsoft as a vendor, let's call it like that, 160. I suppose now Google became with something. Then AWS, I'm expecting with something for sure.
Mhm.
And you have the broader scope all around the world because everyone is just creating some new AI tool, let's call it like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, more than
Wow.
I thought it was maybe 5 or 6, and then somebody said 160 odds, and I was like, "What? Like really?"
160.
Yeah.
160. What was for me surprising to connect the story on this, and which I'm quite happy. I saw the how it's called, the models, what type of models you can use. It's now quite impressive in the Microsoft AI Studio. It's
Yep.
around 1,000 something, I think. They included a lot of models from everywhere, which I found it really nice. So you don't need to go to another tool. Let me try this model, that model, so you can have your own stuff and you can deploy and work there, which I really like, to be honest. Yeah, so far.
I saw a really impressive demo the other day there where someone's written a RAG demo where you have Azure OpenAI, you use the search service, and what you do is you create a container in a storage account, you drop documents in, and you can clone the code, run it in a GitHub code space. It basically says, click to open the website opens, and it's got a wee microphone, and you press the microphone and you speak to the Copilot. You don't type. So you basically say, tell me about the Contoso employee handbook, which is one of the documents that's been uploaded and indexed. And she'll tell you all about what's in the document. So I tried this with one of our handbooks at Intercept, right? I thought, I want to see how quickly this can do it. So I dropped in our employee handbook, and within like 5 minutes, it's like, tell me about the Intercept employee handbook, and it's like the Intercept, and it tells you all about it, and it doesn't just read it; it kind of summarizes it like in a conversation, and it's not amazing, but it's pretty impressive. Sometimes it'll misunderstand my accent, but the fact that it can do that, and you can drop a document in, and it's all set up for you, you can run it in code space, so you don't need to set up anything on your machine. It sets it all up in the background. It clones the code, sets it all up, gives you a window. You press open. The one thing is it doesn't work in Google. You need to open up in Edge, but you press the button and you can speak to. You can ask it like, tell me about your company, like ABN AMRO, and it actually tells you about ABN AMRO. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so that kind of stuff going forward is going to be really, really cool.
Indeed, but again, I must mention that, mate. Now it's almost just 1 year when everything started. Let's call it like that. Yeah, everyone can use it, and we can do stuff and magic. Yeah, next year and the year after, it will be really a big transformations. Basically, definitely, indeed, and. Let's see what the future says. I'm usually making jokes, but I'm saying, if you didn't watch Terminator #2, the movie, that means you don't understand. Well, it's everything machines, videos, fake characters, and all that stuff. It's not really that it will happen but it goes on that direction, because yesterday the demos were also, and also other demos that I have watched. It's a robot wearing a bomb, if I may say like that, wearing a foot or all that stuff. And basically you can type to the robot, throw that somewhere, throw that here, there. So you give just commands and the robot is delivering. You don't know what it will deliver. The example was about AI safety, if I may connect just the story. It's not about bomb and attacks or war. We are not talking about that. But I want to say, that there is settings about violence, harm, sexual something, and one more thing. It's 4 settings for now, which is quite impressive. And maybe I can share one. They jailbreak it. Basically, they found it a tricky one. If you write it how to create a bomb, it will give you error. But if you put how to create a bomb and the bomb with ASCII code, ChatGPT will start explaining to you, yeah, you can create a bomb. This. It was one of the sessions which is really crazy. So the people are looking, for this type of things.
I'll give you an example of why you have to be careful. When I was at JP Morgan, they wrote a bot that people. So if you needed to reset your password, right? Somebody wrote APIs that you could call to, it would ask you what your company employee ID was, and it would say, "Are you this person?" Yes. And then it would ask you, "What's your password?" and you would type it, and it would say, "What do you want your new password to be?" and it would reset your password. Some guy in the security team put on a keylogger on it, and actually on top of the chatbot, and basically got everyone's usernames and passwords. So that got quickly shut down. So you have to be careful with this stuff. Yeah.
That we are putting and that is shared on the internet. If the people are just uploading, that's a little bit, maybe a lot of education is needed. I must be honest with you.
When I was at JP Morgan, people used to copy code and paste it into these websites that format it, and they all had to get blocked because people were putting insecure stuff like, JSON documents that shouldn't be external, and they were pasting them into websites. So all of that got shut down. So you have to be quite careful about stuff. Even Copilot, you have to be careful about what you're actually showing it. Do you know what I mean?
Indeed, but I feel disappointed a little bit when it comes to that topic, because what you said now, I'm afraid to share sometimes with my colleagues. I see still people just copy Control-A, Control-C, Control-V of ChatGPT, or they will take a picture with the phone. Sometimes it's an open, how it's called, I know the English term, open position, so you can see like an ocean, when we go to the office. It's obvious, people just take and just do take picture, and then read 15 minutes, and then they will start typing the email, start do stuff. And we have seen a lot of things like that. That is what I'm afraid a lot, that the people still don't understand that it's not so good as it can be bad sometimes, Think about twice or count 10 seconds, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, something, and basically start typing. Indeed. We went so further. I will go back again now. Indeed. What happened after this, if I may ask? I suppose the high school and all that stuff. Did you catch your? Yeah.
When I left primary school, I went to high school, and I did computing there. That was BBC computers, so we didn't really do a lot there. But when I left school, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I left school, none whatsoever. And my best pal at school said, we can go to the college just up the road and do HNC computing. So that's 1 year course. And I was like, well, let's do that. So I did that. And part of that was learning basic. It was learning commands and DOS and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we did a wee bit of Java. We did a little bit of Java. We're actually typing Java into Notepad at the time. That's how basic it was. The guy teaching us was one chapter ahead in the book. So that was kind of cool. Then I left that, and he said, you can do a degree in 1 year. So you can do the HNC, and then the course after that's an HND. So I went to Paisley Uni, did that. Wasn't really that great a course, to be honest. It was the first time they were doing a computing course at that Paisley Uni. And then I left there and just applied for jobs. After that, I got a junior developer role in a place called Stirling, which is where Braveheart and the William Wallace and all that's from. So I had no experience of programming at this point. So I was completely off the street, don't know what I'm doing. Very lucky to go to a really small company where the senior developer was a lady called Pamela. And she's like, I'll take you under my wing and train you. So I learned.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
Yeah, I was really lucky, to be honest with you. So
time out. The question rings the bell now. How it look in that period, senior developer? What that senior developer look like? What type of knowledge that senior developer have? Everything about MS-DOS, everything about BASIC, everything about, I don't know, what else? Not Java, Java.
At that point, we were doing VB6. Yeah.
Oh, VB6. Okay, I got that. Visual Basic, basically.
Yeah, Indeed. Visual Basic and Com Plus with with ASP.NET web pages. Oh, sorry, ASP.
Wow.
Not even ASP.NET, ASP web pages. So that's where I cut my teeth. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm very lucky because she was brilliant. She was a very good mentor, and she had very high standards. So she would be like, don't cut corners, don't copy paste, type everything, learn the hard way by getting it wrong. She would be like, show me something, and then try and make me think about what's wrong with this code that you've written. Why is it not secure, or why is it not good? So I was very lucky to get that. Not everyone gets a mentor like that.
Indeed. Even now, if I may be honest, it's really tough. Depends on the person, you know, on what type of person it will be your mentor. So what was your first application? I must ask you this. In Visual Basic, I suppose it was?
Yeah,
it was some lotto generator, password generator, something.
Like a Mickey Mouse password generator type thing. Yeah. Just like get a VB6 console to run and create a Windows format type thing with a UI, and just get a button and make it say your name.
Indeed.
Something very, very basic. Yeah.
Indeed. Did you after that went to Delphi, or you didn't catch the Delphi?
No,
I didn't try Delphi.
We did a little bit of Delphi at uni, but we stayed on VB6 where we were.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I learned Com Plus. Com Plus was quite tricky back then because it was all like registry entries and stuff.
Indeed.
Yeah, but it was fun. It was good fun. Yeah, so we used to use Com Plus transaction server and VB6 for about 2 years. Yeah, it was great.
And this is which year, if I may ask you like that? Which year is this, if I may ask?
Oh, that must have been about 2019, maybe 20. Oh, I don't know actually. I'd have been about 20, so 27 years ago. So, what's that?
97?
97, probably, yeah.
97. Because when you said VB6, and I catch that one, basically, and I remember on VB6 and basically later, MS-DOS and how it was, you know, the people were talking about. But what they catch really was VB6, if I may say. Delphi also, I tried, and all that stuff. So 97, and next year you're getting Windows 98. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Indeed.
SQL Server back then was basically command line.
Really?
Yeah. We were doing Oracle was a command line. SQL Server, I think I remember SQL Server 6.5, I think, if I remember rightly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 6.
I think that was
0. I remember.
Yeah,
I remember 6.0, not 6.5, but maybe it's an upgraded version.
Yeah, 6 or 6.5, if I remember rightly. I've got terrible memory. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
No.
So I did that for a couple of years, but she would show me how to write tests. So I started off doing, I wouldn't say test-driven development, but I would write VB6 code and then have to write a test for it. So I kind of got used to figuring out testing is a good idea.
Yeah. Okay.
And we also had the luxury of time where I wasn't working on a customer project per se. I was working on learning. So I could write tests and spend time kind of figuring out what to do. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, so I did that for a couple of years.
You already has built a lot of experience, if I may say like that, you know, looking from this perspective. You are already learning and doing some stuff in the last, for example, 97, 96, 95, let's call it this, till 2000, if I may say, because I think 2000 was the biggest switch in my view, with Windows 2000 and Windows Millennium was some type of version, I think there was. And basically, I think this is the bigger switch, and you already have the knowledge on that, how the Windows is built, on what it works, MS-DOS, CMD command line, and all that stuff. Wow. How you continue, if I may say like that, after the VB6? Did you went to the not Visual Studio, but I remember C and C++?
Yeah, we didn't do C or C++. We stuck on Visual InterDev, and we still did ASP.NET. So
okay.
Yeah, I changed company and became a junior developer. Well, I was still a junior developer, and I was doing ASP.NET development.
Wow. In what? Notepad? Still Notepad?
No, Visual InterDev was the name of it. It was Visual Studio before Visual InterDev. Yeah.
Indeed.
I actually passed an exam on Visual InterDev.
Oh!
People wouldn't even know what Visual InterDev was, but that was before Visual Studio.
If I remember good, that was the 3 installation CDs that you need. CD1, CD2, CD2, and you have left side. Yeah, now Visual Studio, it's on the right side. You can customize by default. But the past was the left side, and then you have the menu on top. I remember on that one.
Indeed. So I did that. That was good stuff. Indeed. And then after that, I did that. I was there for 11 years doing all sorts of different stuff at that second company. So I was now kind of a bit more senior, not senior, but I was more of a mid-engineer, and I was sent out as a consultant to Barclays stockbrokers. So I was working for Barclays, and they wanted to build a dealing engine and some security tooling. So my pals were all they were building a dealing engine in C++, and I was doing security apps, and that was when .NET first came out. Yeah, that was brilliant. So I was one of the first 50 people in the world to pass the .NET exam when it first came out. Yeah. So that was because on the project that I was on, they had hired a team of people, but they didn't have any computers for them. So we were basically just reading books and using our phones. And I was studying for the .NET exam before it was even a thing, really.
Indeed, and that is where it tried to explain. Even I think Elkan was talking in the first episode. Also, he mentioned, you learn how to develop to become developer, but you are basically reading a book, page 2, page 3, and the books were really big ones that were coming with some CD. If I remember good, it was a CD with the books, and on the CD, if you have a computer, then you can read some PDF. Let's call it like that. Which with autoplay, and then you click open the CD and basically and all that stuff. Wow, how crazy it is! I mean,
and we built a security system in .NET Beta, which went to production, which probably shouldn't have went to production because it wasn't even like production ready code.
It was one computer somewhere. It was some computer.
I was hacking away at web services in .NET and putting it into production and trying to figure out like what was actually going on, because it was like every now and again you would do a release and get a DLL lock, and then you were trying to figure out which DLL it was, and then you were in a server room with a rack out, sitting freezing, trying to deploy stuff to production. Those were great. Brilliant fun.
Indeed. And the AC is hitting you in the back, and you're typing as fast as possible.
Great fun.
Indeed. And how is, if I may ask, a lot of developers, now it's very easy. Secure application, best practices, you have all of that. But how you built a secure applications in that period, if I may ask, mate?
Oh, that's a very good question. I mean, you probably didn't back then, because we were just using .NET when .NET first came out. So you couldn't even Google, like, how do I do this? Do you know what I mean? You were looking at the blog articles of people who were working on the ASP.NET team. And you were just trying to follow it, but it was probably very insecure back then.
Indeed. And I remember, to be honest, my experience was later than yours, but I catch from 1998, something like that, 1999. And I remember Windows Server 2003. We have a problem. That was my first experience with Windows Server in 2002-3. Basically, the only support that you have is basically you need to take this landline, call Microsoft support, wait, then they will charge you because another country, United States, and blah, blah, blah. And then till you get the right person, it will take minimum 1 hour. And then the person from there, give me a sec, let me open the book. Brrr, and you listen. And he's doing, with the finger, and the next page. Page, it says, click here, because the books were not so easy to get in that period, if I may say like that.
Back then, we would really be debugging in production to get stuff working.
Indeed. There was a debugger. Indeed, I remember that one.
People would try and lock down the environment in production, and things would stop working because it wasn't like that in dev, which is correct. But back then, you were like, I don't know what to do to fix this, because it was brand new to everyone. So we probably shouldn't have went to production with an app and beta version of .NET, but we did. So that was cool.
I must point one thing, because this year, when you are talking now, it put me also back in the past a lot. And basically, just to clarify some things, in my mind, and also to share with the people, that transferring a code from development to production, there was no copy paste, but it was floppy disk that you need to put there, and and then it takes, and the maximum should be 3.50 megabytes, 3.50, 344, something like that, megabytes, not even 100, which was really tough. And that floppy disk is the golden source, basically, if I may say like that.
We were actually using iOmega zip drives at that point. I don't know if you remember that. Do you remember iOmega zip drives? Big chunky disks.
Yeah. Indeed. I remember that.
You'd have to give it to
Indeed.
somebody, and then they would put it in the server and copy it over, and then you would do the rest. Yeah.
Indeed. I remember on that one. And basically, the floppy, it's really for me, I like to listen a lot of music, different music, and so on. I remember in that period, one person from the neighborhood will buy some CD and then he will copy somehow on the computer one song, 10 megabytes. You need five floppy disks, part one, part two, part three, and then clink. It was really big struggle. I must be honest.
One of the roles at my first job was I was the guy who looked after the MSDN CD folder that you would get. I had to look after that, and I was the guy who had all this in my drawer. I was the guy with the Visual Studio CD or Interdev CD, and they would come to me, and I would give them it, and then they'd have to give me it back. I was the guy who looked after all that in my first job.
My voluntary, I was in the high school, I started a voluntary in 1-2 companies as a award to me. Basically, it was voluntary, no money. I get 300 drivers. I'm saying that to every episode. Basically, graphical driver, motherboard driver, the audio driver, network driver. So 300 CDs. Martin, this is for you. Thank you for your help. We really appreciate. And I remember it was a big in the bus. I was traveling at home, but in that period with the CDs, to travel, it was really fun, if I may say like that. Wow, that's really crazy times. And what we see now, it's completely...
Yeah. I think I had a good upbringing, and so I think I'm pretty good at fixing code that I've never seen before. Like if you give me an app and it doesn't work, I'm very good at picking it apart in my head and figuring out why it's not working. And that's because back in the day when we were in that server room deploying production, I learned things like FileMon, process sys-internal tools. I was using them like in server rooms with the keyboard pull out with the freezing cold air. I learned all that back then. So
KVM, I think it was the KVM. It was the short term, I think, for this to pull out the keyboard and start typing and all that stuff. Wow. I remember. And in that period was, I think, if I remember good, Microsoft started with some type of business computers, servers, we may call like that. So what Gregor is saying also for the people, we need to go to the data center. For those who never seen, it's a small room with a lot of servers, and it must be cold in that room. So the AC is always working there. And when you enter there, you don't have in that period also RDP, remote desktop connection. I think it was not really possible. So you must enter inside. So any change, you need to stay there, and you will be like that and typing at the same time. If you miss something, you don't have Google. Basically, you have the book, so you need to find the book and basically read really carefully and precise, if I may say, and then go to the room and start making the magic.
Yeah, those were the days. No CI/CD pipelines, no GitHub Actions, no DevOps, just copy code in and run it.
Typing, basically, I think I really like it, to be honest, what you said. Basically, your mentor really said, hey, Gregor, don't use copy-paste. Even now, I see, for me, I really like this approach. For example, for me, I'm always, if I see something, I'm retyping because easier gets in my mind. Maybe it's a habit, maybe it's something else with me, I don't know. But now when you said, your mentor, we are talking about 25 years ago, she said, hey, Gregor, start typing because copy-paste is there. It will be there, So I think it's good as advice, I would say, for anyone that wants to become developer. Start typing just to feel, the keyboard, tap these commands. And now, of course, with the AI, we get a lot of suggestions when you start typing, which really helps a lot. But, just to get into mood of developer, start typing something, not on the Messenger or Teams, but start typing in Visual Studio Code. Indeed. Indeed. So Gregor is a developer. Now he's becoming mid to senior. He gets his first certificate. What is the next challenge for Gregor, if I may ask? Does it goes on Windows Server side or stays on the development side?
I stayed on the developer side. Yeah, so I was in my second job, but I was asked to be a contractor and put into Barclays, and I was in there for 11 years on and off. So we're working on all types of different applications. yeah, mainly a kind of mid-level developer, but yeah, learning lots of things in a big, huge bank. So banks are interesting. Banks are interesting places to work because you can and cannot do certain things. Like when I work for Intercept, I can do anything on my laptop. But when I went to Barclays, I couldn't get access to I couldn't even browse the internet. Everything was locked down. Everything was secure, the way it should be in a bank. So it's very interesting learning. Yeah.
Indeed, because in the past I have a lot of friends also, basically, if I may say, similar ages, maybe like you or like me or something. And I remember a lot of people from the past, if I may say like that, I'm saying very often people before 2003, Windows Server 2003 or after, because the people before, they know even how to handle if system is not starting, Windows is not working, DLL is missing, and in the past with the reinstallation of the Windows, very often DLL was missing. The system cannot start because DLL is. So I would say that on that period, you are both IT system admin something and developer was the same person that is doing all that magic.
That's a very good point. I didn't really think about it that way. Believe it or not, today I was installing TFS and I had a missing DLL and I had to get Process Monitor on an old server and start running that to figure out where the code's trying to read it from, which file is it looking for, which version of the file is it looking for. And that was all practice back I got when I was at Barclays doing live production releases. Yeah, someone's not checked a bit of code in, and you were like, "What's missing?" Yeah,
indeed. And in the past, it was the same. If I'm not sure about that, that's why I'm asking. In the past, when you started, it was the same Internet Information Service (IS). Basically for deploying applications, and basically the developer need to stop the service, restart the service, start the service, select the proper port basically on which it will communicate. So I'm saying 2-in-1, let's call it like that. Maybe it was not a DevOps in that period, but you were a DevOps, if I may say like that. You were doing the both development and operation at the same time on one computer.
The interesting part was I would write the code. I wasn't allowed to deploy it. I had to give the team some code. The other team would deploy it to the server, then it would break, and then they would phone me. So the only job I didn't do was actually deploy it. But then I would be in the server room trying to fix it. So that was quite interesting.
In the room, in the cold room. Let's not forget on the cold room. Indeed.
I actually would put my jacket and my hood up. It was that cold. It literally was freezing. Yeah.
That room, we have a joke. When I was starting in one big insurance company, I have friends from university, and we have a joke. During summer, this is the best room. During winter, go away from this room. But during summer is the perfect room, just a little bit get cold. Did you switch, because you said ASP.NET and all the stuff, did you switch a little PHP, some other framework language in that, or you continue just...
I continued on ASP web pages to begin with, and then ASP.NET. I did debug some PHP, but every time I looked at PHP, it looked pretty horrendous, to be honest with you. I just didn't think it looked very good. So I stayed on .NET. .NET Web Services came out, and then that was a big thing. And then, Scott Guthrie actually came to do a talk in Glasgow a little bit. He was the founder of it. He was the guy who wrote all the books. Met him in Glasgow, and I was like, this is amazing. Yeah. And then it was .NET for a long, long time. All the different versions of .NET. Up until about .NET 4.8, when .NET Core started coming out. That was probably where I stopped writing code. I haven't really done any .NET or C# since, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. So you focus really on one technology, if I may say like that, when you're a .NET guy, and that's it, which I really like it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I love it.
Maybe it's a bad, sometimes I get bad comments on, so I must be honest with you and connect my story on this on LinkedIn. The people are looking, at your profile and it says, everything, like my father is Satya Nadella. I'm saying, you're saying you're Azure MVP, you're working Microsoft, and then the people will come and say, hey, we need help with Google Cloud, AWS, and Microsoft Azure. And I'm usually, guy, check the profile, check there. I know there is a lot of people with 25 different certificates, but I'm really like your approach. For me, it's really Azure DevOps. I'm working with Azure DevOps. I know there is a Argo CD, this, that. I'm aware, but my professionality, what I'm good at, best at that is Azure DevOps and Azure.
Yeah.
Not AWS, not Google Cloud, not, I don't know,
Yeah, I
Alibaba
mean,
Cloud or whatever they are.
Yeah, I mean, when I was at JP Morgan, they had things like Jenkins where I had to learn it, but I was a Microsoft stack guy from 20 onwards. Do you know what I mean? The age 20. So I've got 27 years, 28 years and a couple of
Indeed.
years of basically Microsoft. And I still think their tools are better than anyone else's. Like, if you ever have to look at Oracle or anything like that, I'm like, yeah, good luck.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah.
And I must be honest with you now. I know it sounds sometimes nasty. I'm calling. Well, that's why you are the best in what you're doing. That's why we are working in a big companies, but you're focused, just on that. Yeah, sometimes there is a people doing this and that, but in this type, especially, it's really tough. The people are coming and asking also in this learning room and all that stuff. Hey, we heard about Argo CD, we heard Azure DevOps, we heard this, that. Look, that's different. Search a little bit. And, it's really tough sometimes also for the people to explain. No, but I heard that this cloud offers this with this, and it's so complex. And I think the people really must focus. Yeah, I want to become Azure admin, Google admin, or whatever. Otherwise, it's really mess around, if I may be honest with you.
I've been lucky in the jobs that I've been, it's kind of been Microsoft products the whole way. Apart from Jenkins at JP Morgan, mostly everywhere I've worked, I've been quite lucky. Because people normally say, right, what tools are good? And I'm like, well, like when I was at JP Morgan, we did Jenkins. And then in my next job, the guy's like, what's the good build server? And I'm like, Team City's really good. Jenkins isn't. I don't think Jenkins is very good. Team City's really good. We used that until so I was quite lucky that I could kind of not influence, but always get asked what's good in terms of tools.
Yeah, in my period when I was starting, basically very famous was Ubuntu and Linux stuff and blah blah blah. But for me was when I started to look for a job. Whenever I went, yeah, we have Windows servers, we have Hyper-V, we have failover cluster. I will install at home Linux, and basically all the companies have one virtual machine with Linux. Every company, nobody can change my mind. I have been in a lot of companies, and all of them, one, it's about Ubuntu or CentOS, basically, in that period. And basically, you want to learn that sometimes, but if you're 8 hours working Windows servers, connect Hyper-V, install new virtual machine, connect this, that, you don't have really enough time to focus on the other, let's say, parallel things.
Yeah,
indeed. For me, was the similar, if I may say. I just want I'm connecting the dots with you, which that's how we are where we are, if I may say like that. After the .NET, I would jump in a little bit 2005, 2010, if I may call it like that. You are already a senior .NET developer, if I may say like that. Did you take in that period MCSA, which was Microsoft certified something engineer, right? Remember? MSCP something?
Or you went MCSA? Yeah, that was kind of like more. Yeah, that was kind of more networking, guys. Networking. I've still got a developer background, so I don't really do networking stuff, to be honest with you.
But I want to say, because it was a new certificates, and that was available on the market. I remember that, for example, if you take in the development one, ISP 6.0, for example, 6.0, basically there was no other certificate in that period, if I remember good.
Yeah,
that was one and only.
Yeah. There was one called the MCSD, which was the Microsoft Solutions Developer. That came out eventually. I did that. Yeah.
Indeed. I was thinking on that one, but I missed the letters, I think, because mine was MSCA.
That exam was good because it was all the stuff I was doing at the time, which was helpful.
Indeed. When do you start to work in Azure? Immediately after it became famous, if I may say, or not?
No, so after .NET, long story short, at JP Morgan, we had a dev team and an operations team, and it was split down the middle. Like the dev team was in Glasgow, and the operations team was in New York, and no one knew the name of anyone in the operations team. And I was like, how do we? So we would write the code and then put it in a folder. Someone would deploy it, it would break, and they'd phone us, and I'd be like, this is crazy. So I actually applied to become the first ever I bought the Google SRE book, the Site Reliability Engineer book, and I said, I want to become the first SRE at JP Morgan that there's ever been. And they were like, what's an SRE? And I was like, go and read up on it. And our boss was like, this is cool. And I was like, I want the dev team to talk to the operations team like they're sitting next to us. And we're all one big team. So I got the job of kind of making the dev guys talk to the operations guys. So that it was more like a DevOps operation. So I did that for a couple of years. So that was really good. And then after that job, I left to become the head of development at a company in Glasgow. So that's when I stopped doing hands-on development, and I was managing a team of developers.
That is which year, if I may ask?
That's a good question. Maybe four. How long? 4, 7. Maybe 10 years ago.
Then 2014, basically.
Something like that, yeah, I think. Yeah.
13, 14, indeed.
No, sorry, that wasn't. No, that was 4 years ago. Sorry, 4 years ago. I started that 7 years ago, so I was there for 3. 7 years ago, I started doing that. Yeah.
7 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, 7 years ago,
so till there, so far, your experience in total, if I make this summarize, let's go to that. It's basic MS-DOS, Java, Visual Basic, Delphi, and then it was ASP.NET basically. And basically you go with ASP really running on a long term, let's call it like that, for good till let's say 70.
Yeah, the last year at JP Morgan, they wanted to build their own cloud. So cloud computing was becoming a thing back then, but they wanted to build their own one internally. And I was thinking, that's a bit crazy. That's going to take you years to get anything. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to get in. And it was all AWS, and it was all cloud formation. I can't remember, some framework that you can build your own cloud.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's crazy. So I got offered a job as head of development, did that for 3 years. And while I was there, I got interested in Azure. So that's when I started thinking, right, cloud computing is definitely the next big thing. How do I get involved in this? So while I was there, I started just learning, playing about with it basically, and looking at like what's the first exam that suits my skills.
To take. Yeah.
So I'm thinking I think it was like 201 or something. It was like the developer exam.
AZ 204. 204, I think it was.
Came out and I just chanced it and tried to do it and failed it because I had never really deployed. I had only read blog posts. So top tip is you should never do an exam just from reading. It's like trying to fly a plane from reading a book. If you sit in the cockpit, you'll be like, what's this? You might think you know about it, but you don't. So I thought I knew how to pass this exam, but I had no experience whatsoever. So I failed that and went back to doing hands-on. And that's when I started blogging. I blogged my journey of what I was trying to accomplish.
Wow.
So I'm going from having no Azure skills to trying to be an Azure developer and pass the exam.
Indeed.
So that's nice. This is what I'm learning. This is how I'm doing it. This is the courses that I'm doing. I was like going to Udemy and going to Scott. Scott Duffy's courses.
Scott Duff.
That's where I learned it all. And I was doing it all hands-on. I resat the exam, passed, moved on to the next one, did the same again. And people were commenting, going, this is really cool. And I'm like, well, this is my journey. And I just want to blog it in case anyone wants to do the same. So that's
and basically, to be honest now, thinking just loud with you, I completely understand. Basically, for me, it was very similar, if I may say like that. But the switch, what you have experienced, I think that takes a little bit time somewhere here in our head.
Yeah.
You know, what was your experience? So like sit on a computer, you have your raw code debug there, and now you have everything, possible in one cloud and do the magic and all that stuff. What was your first exam? Azure 204, you failed once.
Yeah, I think it was a developer exam, and then I failed that, and then I did the other one, which
admin.
I don't think it was
administrate.
No, I don't think it was that. I don't think that was even out when back then. It was like I can't honestly remember what the first 2 exams I sat. One was developer. I don't think it was admin because I failed that as well. I booked them like in the same week, but I made the same mistake where I was just reading it So I failed both of them, and then went back and I thought, right, I need to rethink my game here. I thought I would just like kind of wing it a little bit, and I was like, I'm a smart guy, I can figure this out, but I didn't. You know, I was asking me questions, and I'm like, I need to learn how this works, not just or why it works in the way it does, rather than just okay, a web app's this and a web app's that. I need to understand it a bit better. So I went back, passed both exams, and that was really a. I think if I'd failed them, I might have given up because it was quite disheartening. Because back then it was like I'm spending a lot of time, personal time at night, trying to get learn stuff. Yeah, and it's difficult when you don't have a subscription to try and deploy things on. That it's your own money at that point.
Indeed. In the past was a problem. We need to read books and all that stuff, and we don't have our own server because just the companies have the servers, basically, which even were normal computers now when I think about. But now with the cloud, let's be honest, it's not easy. Just put the debit card there in your subscription and then, do all that stuff. I remember it was admin and the developer because that were the first two that were officially. Right. Yeah, because either you're administrators, for the MCCA guys that work domain controllers and Active Directory, and the other was, I suppose, the logic. I'm getting the logic for the developers, like, for example, like you with ASP.NET, Visual Studio, and basically that's how they made just these two. That's how I remember, by the way. So indeed, it's a tough, basically, for new things and all that stuff.
Yeah. Passing those exams gave me a bit of a buzz, and I'm like, this is cool. I want to go deep on this. This is the topic that I want to go deep on. So, yeah, I'm one of these people who want to know everything. I want to know how everything works. Do you know what I mean?
Indeed.
I want to know how things work under the covers, not just like how do I use it. I want to know how do I bend it and break it.
Indeed. I'm the same. That's good. That's nice. When do you become, if I may ask, a Microsoft trainer? Because now, I'm looking for your motivation. I must be honest. I failed 2 times on exam so far. Basically, on the Microsoft exam, which really was pissed off. I hate to fail, to be honest. And you prepare the exam, and indeed. And now, you take the exam, and again, you need to redo. You need to pay again. Let's be honest. It's not that. Yeah, Gregor, come. Sit on the computer. You can take the exam. It takes some time. You need to prepare yourself. You need to invest a little bit more. From where is coming, how to explain? I'm looking where is coming your motivation. You failed and now you're going back as a Microsoft trainer, if I may ask like that.
Yeah, when I failed, I was really annoyed. Like I remember I had to drive to Edinburgh in the car early in the morning. And to be honest, I just panicked in the exam. I wasn't really ready for it. So that was my learning. Be prepared. And I really wasn't. And I had to go back 2 days later and do the other exam. And I knew I would fail it because I knew I wasn't prepared. But I paid the money, did it. So I was like, right, I want to learn this. And the best way to learn it is to try and teach it to someone. Do you know what I mean? If you think you know something, try and teach it to someone who doesn't know anything about it. You'll soon realize that there's gaps in your knowledge. Yeah.
That's true.
I became an MCT when I joined. I think it was when I joined Intercept, actually. It would have been where they asked me, do you want to do workshops for customers? They basically said, do you want to travel around Europe and go to the Microsoft headquarters and give workshops? And I was like, oh, yes.
I want to travel.
yeah, I want to travel. I want to go to Microsoft offices around the world. Absolutely. So I was like, yes, I'll do that. And I basically watched one of the guys, Wesley, doing a talk at Intercept. I figured out what we talk about, how to deliver it. And then I went from there. And I was super lucky because I got to go to quite a few Microsoft offices around Europe and do that. And then he's like, well, you can become an MCT. So that was just, fill the form in and that was the rest. That was system.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
But my big thing is I love helping people and teaching people stuff. Because Indeed. I always think back to that girl. When I go back to the first job I did, she took the time she could have basically went, I'm too busy, just learn it yourself. But she didn't. So
a lot of people now, let's be honest. I mean, that's the reality, what is happening in the big companies.
When I'm busy at work and people reach out to me, I still always try and make time for them because I think, it's I could basically say I'm too busy, go away, and I don't think that's the right thing to do. Because
Indeed.
I would happily help someone and make that time up at night in my own time doing my stuff and get them moving on because I know what it's like to try and learn something when you don't know what you're doing. It's not a nice feeling. especially when you've
Indeed.
got customers with a deadline. That's not fun. Yeah.
That's not fun at all.
No,
That's not fun at all.
not nice
Indeed,
feeling.
pressure from everywhere and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Completely
when I
agree on this.
joined Intercept as an Azure architect, I get thrown in the deep end. I only knew Azure a little bit. I hadn't really architected anything. You know, I had done the exams, but I wasn't really, this is best practice and you need to think about A, B, and I had to learn that being thrown in front of customers, which was scary but exciting at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
But it's a good lesson learned.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to get pushed off the edge and just take a leap of faith and figure it out.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. How it comes for the whole story, MVP, from where it's coming, in which year, if I may ask you like that?
I can't honestly remember, but I think I was speaking to Kenny Lowe at an Azure user group maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Didn't really know what MVP was about, to be honest with you. I had seen it, but I was ignoring it because I was like, I don't know what that is. I thought it was more a server type thing, to be honest. I had no idea. And then they told me all about it, and I was like, right. And to be honest, I got a bit of paper and I wrote MVP up above my big screen, in between my lights, and I was like, I'm going to become an MVP. And that's when I was blogging constantly and helping everybody that I possibly could, because I was like, I want to do this. Because he was telling me all the opportunities you get as an MVP to give back to people.
And indeed, I'm thinking, that's the main value.
Yeah, and also giving feedback on products that I use day in, day out. I love doing that. You know what I mean? I love seeing what's coming and helping them build it and stuff. I just love that. The thing about being an MVP is hardly anybody sees the contributions that you do, because a lot of it you can't talk about. You can't even put in a form sometimes because it's like just super NDA, do you know what I mean? But that stuff's cool. Love doing that stuff.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Now, listening to your passion, I must ask you one question. Do you think about to join Microsoft, for example? In the future, not now. I don't want to be now. Intercept guys and that. Some guy feel really passionate and motivated. I must be honest with you. He's not making face, Gregor, and so on. Somehow the whole journey and how it started and all that differences. I mean, from you when you started to when I started. Yeah, I have seen some graphical design, if I may say like that, Windows 98 and all the stuff, blue color, the logo, the recycle bin. I remember all the stuff. But looking at black screen, for example, couple of years, and then now everything that you see, and I really, the last couple of 2-3 minutes when you were talking, helping people, this, that, and that. Do you have some goal, for example, working for Microsoft or something, if I may ask like that, or?
I don't know. I think about it sometimes, and then I talk to people who work there, and it doesn't really fill me with a lot of joy. It doesn't really sound like it's my thing. And some people might be surprised by that, but it all depends on which team you end up and what you're doing. Like I'm in the UK, and I get the feeling that the UK is like a sales arm of Microsoft. You know, I don't really want to be on selling Azure services to people and pushing them towards. You know, I like talking to customers and saving them money. I don't want to get them to spend money. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's just not my thing. So I don't know. I've applied a couple of times. Don't get me wrong. I applied for a job I didn't even know anything about. That was quite funny. It was like a global black belt in the AKS team, and I can't remember which team it was, but I knew nothing about that. So that was quite funny. Would I join them? It depends on what role you were doing. Like, I wouldn't join them. I like being hands-on. And when you speak to architects, they're not really hands-on. Do you know what I mean? They're not like, I'm in customers' portals helping them and stuff. It's more a hands-off upsell type thing, and that's not really what I want to do. I want to be hands-on.
And listening to you, somehow you're the man in the action, if I may say like that. You know, Jackie Chan in the movies. You know, he's doing everything. If I may say like that.
To be on the outside, just giving you advice. That doesn't float my boat. Yeah.
Indeed.
Unless I was doing that, no, would be my answer. Yeah.
No. Nice. On so much experience, if I may ask like that, how you handle in the whole story? I know we discussed from the beginning a little bit AI. How it look like, if I may say, how it look like now, what everything you see. For example, I have seen, we discussed AI and all that stuff. I saw also you as a developer, I saw one AI tool, and if I'm not mistaken, Devin dot something. It's called Developer AI. Devin
Right.
is the tool. Maybe you have seen not.
Right.
The advertisement was the person is just, or some young person talking, I want this application, la la. He's explaining, I want buttons, I want this. And basically, this AI tool is generating everything and preparing, and he generates the package, let's say it like that. How do you see for a person that is developing 20 years, 25 years, let's call it a .NET, now we see all the stuff, AI, Copilot. How is the feeling? Is it helping to you, first of all? Let me ask you like that.
So that's a very good question. I'll give you a real world example, right? Microsoft reached out to me recently to try this NDA thing where it takes code like a web app and builds all that for you. Right.
Yeah,
And I'm like, that's great if you are an on-prem shop and you want to figure out like what does bicep code look like? What does the deployment look like? It's not, when you see this, right, it's not got best practice. It doesn't have any tests.
indeed.
It doesn't know about dev environment compared to the test environment. So it has its use, but proof of concept only at the moment is what I would suggest. Nowhere near production ready.
Indeed.
So you have
Indeed.
to be careful with these things. Even when you're generating code using GitHub Copilot, you've got to make sure it's correct. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes
Indeed.
when you do that, it'll hard code the goods and stuff like that for subscription IDs, and it's not a parameter. You have to kind of know what you're doing to be able to see the value and see where it's not valuable. And the
Indeed.
only way you'll do
Indeed.
that is learn is from experience. I mean, it's great. We've got a customer just now who's on-prem and they're trying to get an ASP.NET web app into the cloud. They've no idea how to go about it. So these tools could show you, like you can talk to these tools and they'll build you the pipeline, they'll build you the infrastructure as code, and it will deploy it for you now. Like this is coming out. This kind of stuff's on its way. Is it production ready? No. Will you be able to use it? Could you get it up and running for a web app? Yes, but yeah, it's a tricky one. You kind of need to know what you're doing so you know you don't just trust it explicitly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the little bit problem so far. If I may be honest, I think a lot of companies are facing off. The people are really doing copy pasting the code, which is a big problem. Yeah, here I don't know at your side basically, but in Netherlands, what I heard, I suppose it's for some it's true. I know for my company, ChatGPT and all the stuff, it's blocked, for example, just because of that. But as I said, people are taking pictures and analyzing the code and blah blah blah, which is not good.
I was at Build last year on Ask the Experts, and I was demoing Visual Studio Copilot. And a lot of these people were like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" And I was like, "What industry do you work in?" And it was like healthcare, and I was like, "You're probably not going to be allowed to use this." Banking, do you know what I mean? And most people would say that we're not allowed to use these tools, and I feel a little bit sorry for them, but I understand why. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you day to day, I use Copilot all day long, ChatGPT, Copilot, Visual Studio, Azure, the whole lot. It makes my life so much easier. Like I'm talking to a customer and ask me a question and I can tell you the answer because I'm sitting with a ChatGPT window open, just typing it, and then I'm like, yes, you can do that. So it's difficult if you're in an industry where you, like ABN where you work probably won't let you use a lot of these tools going forward.
Yeah. No, we are not using everything is blocked. We have our own GPT, which is I think 3.5 something turbo, but it's really limited, if I may say like that. It's helping for some informations. I mean, insider, let's call it like that, internal sites and all that stuff. What is very bad, I was thinking from before when we started talking about this topic, should I share or not? What also I discussed with a couple of other friends here in Netherlands, but also in some other European countries. A lot of people, very often, they travel with two laptops or the work laptop and the tablet, some big screens, if I may say, on the mobile phone. So the people are mostly, I suppose, using these tools from the other devices, not just from this device.
Even if you work for a bank and you work from home, people have another laptop or off your corporate laptop. They'll be sitting going like that, and then they'll be just typing it or copying it over or doing whatever. So so to go back to your point, to generate the code like that, that's definitely going to happen. That will happen. It's not using, like, for example, the demo I saw, they create their own bicep, but it's not using best practice by any stretch of the imagination. It's kind of hard-coded, like, resource names, so you couldn't really deploy that to dev, test, and production because it'll break. But going forward, I think in a couple of years' time, AI will be generating all of the apps for us. I really do think that's what will happen.
Indeed. Basically, we saw that. I think I have been working 2 years. Yeah, 2 years as a Power Platform consultant. And basically, what the opportunities are there. And basically, the first Copilot from Microsoft was for Power Platform. And basically, you have low code, no code at all. Basically, you can take a picture and draw your application here. Take a picture, upload in Power Platform. It will make an application for you, basically. Which was one. So next year, I would say, yeah, there will be a possibility and all this stuff. I'm always making quarterly goals for learning and new stuff. I want to ask you, mate, what is your next learning, if I may say like that, maybe in your mind, or what you're willing to learn? I know AKS or this or that. Do you think, or do you do this planning, if I may say, just to
I usually
try
do. I usually plan everything. I haven't really planned it very well because I've just been snowed under at work, to be honest with you. I really want to get into generative AI and mostly web apps. Yeah, I think that's going to be cool.
Indeed, and that's the latest stuff that is happening. Web apps are completely, deployed SaaS solution. You have AI in the background and all this stuff. Yeah, indeed. For me, it's the same. I deployed a lot of times the models in AI Studio, basically Azure AI Studio, and I play around, but not deep dive, because yesterday I said on this Microsoft AI tour, there was a lot of APIs, best practices shared. For example, use the tokens instead of how was the keys and all this stuff. So it's really a lot of stuff that we need to learn. I mean, continuous learning, but I was just thinking, because we have a lot of work. So now, just focusing on something specific.
The one thing that I would like to learn a bit better is our customers talk about doing DR, disaster recovery.
Yeah, recovery, yeah.
Like when you see the money that costs to have spin up a different region and duplicate it all, most of our customers steer clear of it. So I'm really interested in. I'd love to know, like, what happens when West Europe goes down, because if West Europe goes down, how do you get your app back up, right? I always talk to customers about that, and they're like, and I'm like, yeah, you need to think about that in case that happens. How quickly could you theoretically get the websites and then the key vaults and all the Azure resources redeployed and populated? Not just deployed, but populated and running. They're like, what is your RTO? And a lot of customers won't go down that road because it's too expensive. But I want to I'd love to be able to go flick a switch, use Chaos Studio to bring down the application of the customer in West Europe and just see how long it takes them. I think that would be, I'd love to get into that a bit more.
Indeed. I have one experience in 2018 on that. I'm not sure if I should share. Yeah, I can share that. It was about the Swiss Army. I must be honest. And that's the only thing. It was a dynamic system and all that stuff. Basically, I was working for a company from Switzerland and all the stuff. They were strict. Basically, the Swiss customers are usually focused on the data to stay in their country. So in that period, Microsoft officially, Switzerland, if I remember good, North and South basically are still available, and they're really expensive. So we were testing the disaster recovery on these two regions. What if the top failed and then the other? Basically, we were testing this with the dynamics. I think it's more that the solution is really tough to crash, let's call it, because it's really stable. But what we tested, basically what you said, the disaster recovery, in my life, I have 5 times tested this. 2 times was successfully, but really from on-prem to on-prem, from, for example, Amsterdam with Utrecht, 2 different cities with direct connection and all that stuff. It worked quite smoothly. But the Azure side, I tested 3 times, and so far just with 2 regions, not with 3, to be honest. But it works really, basically, if it crashed now, for example, you stop the VM, immediately starting up basically the other application. Immediately. That's how it looks. I mean, it's explained. I was like you, what you said, basically, I was really afraid that I was configuring. It's not just a normal company, some small company. We are talking about army, let's call it like that. And if something failed, it's really tough situation for everyone. So we tested really and I said, let's see if it's really from the Microsoft Learn on the docs, how it's written. So I really followed those steps. And for the 2 regions, it's really when we stop the VM, immediately the one we saw on the refreshing, my colleague was starting pressing refresh all the time. Immediately after we press stop, starting, immediately. What type of data and all that stuff I didn't check. Maybe the developer can immediately start up, if I may say like that.
Yeah, I think we have customers who, excuse me, who've got like SQL. That's some services are quite easy to fail over, but some of them aren't. Do you know what I mean? Some of them aren't quite.
I have a couple of customers during COVID for SQL. They are still afraid, I must be honest. And I'm still afraid. I never configured SQL customer production data just, as a failover. For me, it's really tough. And I was checking a couple of weeks ago something. It's very expensive, mate. I must be honest. Production data, quite expensive. I mean, even failover studio, disaster recovery for SQL.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
When I'm doing a design, I'll put in like business critical high failover documents, and it's like, no, we can't afford that. And I'm like, okay, right. Well, what happens when West Europe goes down? And they're like, we'll just hope it doesn't. And that, I get that they can't afford it, but I'd be interested to see what happens if West Europe went down.
It happened, I think, 2 years ago in March. It happens when the Active Directory failed completely, if you remember. Basically now Entra. So it happened. I think it was also. One customer asked me, maybe this is wrong from my side, but what I noticed, I remember on that day, by the way, I was at work. Nobody can sign into the computers and all the stuff. I remember Germany North was green. Basically, that was the only data center that was working. And I'm using usually this Switzerland way because the Swiss guys are really strict and they said, we are all the time available. And from that period, I'm saying, if you have money, Switzerland and Germany North. Basically, Germany North, it's really, even from that period, all the time when something failed, Germany North, it's up and running. Green button, basically. It's on the status.azure.com.
Yeah. I'd love to deploy a full scenario like to North Europe and West Europe and have it like click a button and it just fails over and over. I'd love to set all that up and do that I keep talking about it, but I have not done it. But it's something I'd be interested in doing.
Yeah. Indeed, a really nice scenario that we cannot test it. Basically, that's a little bit tough.
Yeah,
but maybe we can ask in Microsoft. Maybe we can send some email or something so somebody can make a demo.
On that side. I mean, here's how the whole failover thing works in Azure with all these different services. I think that would be an awesome demo.
Indeed. What type of data will stay? Either it's on application, either it's on virtual machine or SQL, whatever there. Yeah. But nice. Indeed. I really like it. The story, I must be honest. I would ask you the takeaway and advice for the next generation, for the most experienced so far developer that I have in my episodes. If I may say like that.
My advice would be, I try to be humble, right? I try to be, don't be an ego. Don't bring your ego to work. Like, don't think you're better than anyone, right? So try and be humble. Try and help everyone. Indeed. And it's my biggest problem is I do help everyone, and it becomes quite difficult to get your work done. But try and be polite to people. Don't be nasty to people. Do you know what I mean? You don't need to do your best. Show up every day. If you don't know what you're doing, ask someone. If you don't know what you're doing, don't get worried about it. You'll figure it out. Do you know what I mean? There's loads of times in my career where I've been like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Like, I'm doing that with one just now, and I'll figure it out. But you need a bit of determination. Don't give up. Just ask people, Google it. Try and learn the skills to figure out something that you don't know anything about. You know,
it takes time.
It does take time, and that's the thing. If you're new to the game, it will take time. Nobody knows everything. The other thing is, I was what's called a T-shaped developer. So the idea is, if you think of the T-shape, right, you've got there's all these different things to learn. I try to go deep in one rather than go deep in everything. Nobody's an expert on everything, so there's two schools of thoughts. You're either an expert at one thing and that's all you do. You concentrate on like one thing, or have a bit of knowledge about everything and go deep on one thing. So that's like a T-shaped developer, they call it. That's what I wanted to be. So I tried to learn as much as I could about databases and serverless and then backups and restoring and a little bit of networking, but just enough to kind of have a good idea what you're doing. and I went deep in development. You know, and that's kind of
Indeed.
that I went deep in. Yeah.
Indeed. I completely agree, mate. Thank you for this. And this T-shirt developer, I completely agree. Developer, DevOps, security, whatever, because there is a lot of opportunities on the market with the clouds and all the stuff. And I really like it. Yeah, focus on one. Yeah, you can check. There is, for example, most famous 3 different cloud providers: Google Cloud, AWS, Azure. What do you want to learn from these 3? You choose one, and then you go T-shirt. Let's call it on the T. Let's go deep dive, if I may say it like that. Really nice advice, indeed. I would really appreciate for your time. Thank you for your time, mate. Indeed.
No,
I would leave you to enjoy in the rest of the evening in Tuesday. And basically hope that next time we will see each other and drink one beer in Netherlands once you will come here.
Beers are on me when I meet you.
Indeed, and we will see each other. Thank you one more time.
Thank you.
And thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.